We're back again for Teachers to Teachers. Last time we were talking about report cards, and we just got into some really good discussion, especially about giving what kind of information we're giving to parents. Because with a typical report card, you're telling parents all the things that are happening in the classroom that they don't get to see. That's what you share at parent-teacher conferences and in report cards. And now they're there with the kids. And so you're giving them some different information. So I think that's a great example of how assessment is in the process of changing because of these circumstances. So before we dive into this 15-minute conversation about changes in assessment, why don't we go ahead? I'll pick the leader. Drew, you be the leader. Give us a quick introduction so we remember who we are.
Okay, sounds great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Kim, thanks for facilitating our conversation today. My name is Drew Gerdes. I'm the early childhood principal at Concordia International School in Shanghai, China. So it's great to be here with you today. I think I'm going to spin the globe and go over to the east. So Cody, I think you're next.
Sounds good. Hi, I am Cody Collier, and I am the 4th and 5th grade teacher at Anchor Lutheran School in Anchorage, Alaska. And I'm just excited you guys are all here to join us today. I'm going to spin it just a little bit more, and it's Kiara's turn now.
Hi, I am Kiara Denholm. I am the 4th grade teacher at Our Redeemer Lutheran in Dallas, Texas. Miss Erin, you're next.
Hi, I'm Erin Rogers, and I'm the 3rd grade teacher at First Lutheran in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Great. And I always forget to introduce myself, but that's okay. I'm Kim Marxhausen, and I'm in the glamorous state of Nebraska. So where we just have finally gotten spring, because we just had snow about 2 weeks ago. So we're ready to go. So let's dive into some assessment paradigm changes. These are kind of conversations I just love to hear. Usually assessment changes very slowly over time. So that unless you get to be as old as I am and you can think back to a generation ago, you don't even notice how it changes. But now we have one of those life-changing kind of events that really changes things. So let's talk about how is assessment different, especially in terms of what you're sharing with parents. What do they need to know?
I think the big shift in my world has been it's become a lot less 100% focused on content and a lot more focused on how, like, I feel like in a weird way I've gone from like academic necessarily to like how are they doing with 21st century skills. And I think that's almost like the weirdest thing to think about is that's the biggest thing. In some ways, like we're wondering if this whole situation is hindering our kids, but we also have to wonder, like, are they really going to be like super advanced in some senses concerning how they're going to be able to work and mold from like a technological point of view. And so like in like a weird way, it's become less stress on focusing how well they're necessarily getting the content and a lot more on how's their interaction, how are they doing socially and emotionally during these times, and just being able to relay that to the parents of like, you know, they're doing well with, you know, this struggle came up and we were able to meet and talk and they were able to positively turn the page so that they could successfully work with the technology that was before them. And it's weird to like think about it that way, because I think as a teacher, I'm very forced to think like, yeah, they can do long division, but like right now it's almost like more important that I worry about how they're doing in other aspects of their life more so than academics.
We're seeing a lot more real life problem solving.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Cody, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think it's important for us as educators to educate parents during this time as well. So many parents are likely worrying, can my child do that long division problem? Can my child get a good score on this online quiz that's being shared? As an early childhood educator, we've really focused a lot on letting our parents know that it's not just a checkbox of, you know, does your child know all of the alphabet letters and all of the blends and digraphs and sounds that a kindergartner would do. We certainly share those things in the resources that we provide our families, but we also let families know that there's much more to education than just ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and facts. We want our students to have those life skills. One of the things that we do at Concordia is we do Zoom parent coffees, where we just provide a little workshop setting and an opportunity for parents to gather and ask questions to myself, to our assistant principal. We have a counselor that's available, and that's been beneficial for us because parents really want to know what are the things that we should be doing. We link what we share to different early learning goals, and so we reassure our parents that what we are providing, if your child participates in them, they are making progress towards some of the learning goals that we have for our school. And these are things that you can do at home together that also help in so many different areas of, again, those life skills. I like to talk a lot about self-regulation and executive function skills and social emotional learning. And for our youngest learners, those really need to be set in place first. So then the academic content can really layer on top of that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, now you get to see, because students are in more extreme settings, you really get to see how well they regulate themselves and in terms of problem solving or in terms of their emotions too.
Exactly. What are some of the other, Kiara, Erin, are you using any online programs or software? I know in our kindergarten class, we use something called Raz Kids. And so teachers are able to go and get a little bit of information on a student's reading level and how they're progressing. So there are different tools out there. Are you familiar with anything that you're using at your schools?
Yeah, there's so many resources out there, which is wonderful, but it can be a little overwhelming at times. Because I find so many cool things. I'm like, I can't overwhelm my parents and kids with that. They don't need another login and password. Yeah, so we use, thankfully, our reading series already had a website, which was wonderful. So my kids already had accounts. So they can do a lot of informal things, but I can also do like end of unit tests and things like that, which is really nice. We use IXL as well. And so that's a really great website that has, language arts and math and science and social studies. So that one's wonderful to use. Brain Pop also is really great because there's some quizzes on there after they watch the video. And it's review, so the kids feel like it's not as intense. I think maybe it's a little bit more, I guess, not as scary or intimidating. So yeah, I think it's just a completely different way to look at it and a lot more informal assessment than what I typically do. So yeah, like you all have been saying, it's just a complete switch. So what about you, Kiara?
Yeah, I agree to what everyone is saying. I think that first and foremost, we have to stop and think, what are the important things to be assessing right now? And recognizing that students are getting information in a very different way. They're maybe not getting as much time to discuss and learn and ask questions with that. We've used Google Classroom. So I've actually been doing a lot of Google Forms where you can make either a short answer or a multiple choice or any of this. And I do that, and I really like it too because they can do it as many times as they want. So I encourage my students, I say, okay, once you've done this lesson, do the Google form, and that'll kind of show you. And then if you miss them, come back and do it again. And again, different than in the classroom. I didn't have as much time to give them this information to really, drill it and teach it and review it and all of this. So learn those study skills. Learn what to do when, I missed this. How do I go back and find that? I encourage for a lot of them to do a lot of the class subjects to use their book. Practice during this time. Where do you find the answer? Oh, here's the vocab word. How can I look and find that? So it's definitely different than when I think about giving a test in my classroom. But it's good to see, and I love on the Google Forms, it'll show me how many times they took it and what their score was. So I can even see that too and see the improvement.
It's interesting because I'm starting to see how God is using this time, because you're all talking about how your students are really developing their own study skills or their own self-regulation skills. And these were things that we kind of watched for in the classroom, but we really didn't take as much a note of them. So I'd like to think in our last few minutes here a little bit more about informal assessment. I know when I teach a graduate class, if I teach it in the classroom, I can walk around and informally assess and get a feel for who's participating and who isn't. But it's a whole different ball of wax when I'm teaching online. So what kind of informal assessment have you guys been doing?
Kim, I'll just give a short little snippet of some, I think 2 things that we found to be beneficial here with our teachers is that we use Seesaw for the delivery of our home-based learning. And so it's kind of an online portfolio where students can go and contribute. And then there's a big long-lasting picture of what students have been able to share and contribute. A lot of our teachers also really value individual Zoom calls with their students and with parents as well, to give parents tips, but also just to listen and ask questions. Because again, they can't be right there next to them, but they can have a personal conversation. And many of our teachers have found that the student has progressed in reading, or the student has really excelled in some of their math learning because of what they've been able to show me. And it's a big investment of time for teachers, but I think they found it to be beneficial.
I even think about just the types of questions that my kids ask at the end of the day. Like, I think I can really get a good assessment of how they're doing just based on how they're phrasing the things. Like, it's one thing if they say, can you tell me how to do number 4, instead of, hey, I understand I'm supposed to multiply and divide, but I can't figure out which steps to do it in. Like, you can see the higher level processing of that instead of like, I'm waving my white flag, I don't get it. So it's like, it's just even informal in that sense of like, just dwelling on like what kind of questions are your kids posing and like what depth of like cognition is going on there to develop those sorts of questions.
Right, because you're talking about metacognition there, that your second example is a student who's thinking about what do I need instead of what do I do?
Exactly.
Help me.
Or tell me the answer. Yeah. We use Google Classroom as well. And so a lot of times it's nice because I can kind of peek in as my kids are working on assignments. So that's been kind of neat too, almost like hovering over their desk a little bit. But what I also like about it is that if the students or the parents have questions, they can send a private message or they can ask a message. And it might be clarification because I didn't explain it well, because I'm used to telling them things multiple ways in multiple different times in the classroom. And if somebody has a question, I can quick answer it. So being able to kind of touch base with them that way, or just via email. A lot of my kids have been good about emailing me questions and asking for help and things like that. So.
Yeah, I agree. Google makes it very easy to send, I can send a little private note and say, watch for capitals and periods, or some of that along the way. It's nice.
Well, another great discussion, and I have a feeling these little discussions are just going to be teases, because it feels like I look at the clock and go, oh, we should move on to another topic. We should end this one. And so hopefully that's the way those of you who are watching feel, because we really want to see some more interaction on social media with this. Definitely keep this discussion going, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you want to use, because everyone's thinking about these things and people are trying great things. We have 4 great teachers here, but there's so many good ideas out there. But what I really do like from this discussion is the way the 4 of you have just really adapted to this new situation. And yep, we can't do things the same way, but we're finding the good things that we can do. And that's really, I think, one of the blessings of being a Lutheran teacher. So I'll just remind you again that LEA is a great organization to support every one of you. And one of the things I really like about LEA are the listservs, because you can post a question quickly and you will have an answer within a short amount of time, and from people all over. And the thing that I like to do is watch for people who think like I do, or people who are ahead of where I'm at, and then I go and connect with them on social media and create a new relationship, because that's what LEA is about. So please go to lea.org, and if you are a member, check out the resources and make use of them. And if you're not, please join us. Thank you.